Joining me now, Greg Petersmeyer, the founding director of the President's White House Office of National Service, who helped President H.W. Bush found his charity Points of Light. Greg, what were the causes that were really most important to the late president?
Well, Rena, when he came into office, he did make one White House structural change, which was to create an office that could help him focus on how people voluntarily can make a greater difference in the country. So he started around this idea of points of light, but it evolved into a couple of changes. One, a commission was started, which became the Corporation for National and Community Service, that Bill Clinton then drove toward AmeriCorps. But President Bush also created a foundation called the Points of Light Foundation, which is now the largest volunteer organizing and mobilizing organization in the world. And probably the thing that many people remember him for around Points of Light was the way he began to thank people, one each day from the White House, for doing something voluntarily to make a difference in the country. He called these daily points of light. He began in November of 1989 doing this. And right up to the last day he was in office, the morning that he left to drive up to the Capitol when Bill Clinton was inaugurated, he named the 1020th point of light. So I think that using his office to draw attention to average citizens who were really making a difference in the country voluntarily became a very important way for him to use the presidency. And I know Larry Sabato and Doris Kearns Goodwin were speaking about his character and his humility. And I think in a way, one of the things he liked about these daily points of light was it wasn't about him telling people what to do. It was about him thanking people for what they were already doing. And I think it fit his nature, and it was a way for him to draw attention to this very, very old part of America, which is people voluntarily stepping forward to make a difference in other people's lives.
Greg, what was it that inspired President Bush to actually found his charity Points of Light?
Well, I think, again, as some of your guests have been saying, a lot of it was how he was raised. His mother would always remind him when he would come back from even an athletic event, and he would say what he had done. He said, yes, but what did your team do? How did the team turn out? And so I think that with his father and his mother were very involved in all kinds of voluntary activities. So as a very young man, he began focusing on that way. And even as a child, he had a nickname, which was Have Half George. And the reason, apparently, was that even as a relatively small child, almost in elementary school, whenever he had something in his hand, whether it was a sandwich or a drink, and he'd encounter a friend or whoever, he'd say, "Do you want to have half?" So it was a very, very much part of his nature. And when it's well known that he was a storied aviator, as the youngest naval aviator. He much to his father's sadness, told him he was going to enlist the day he turned 18, which he did. But then when he went back to Yale, he was the founder of the United Negro College Fund chapter at Yale. He moved to Midland, Texas, and started the YMCA in Midland with other people. So there was just this pattern, and I think that led him, when he was talking about a kinder and gentler country, when he became president, to draw more attention to this very old, in some ways uniquely American character trait of people stepping forward voluntarily to help one another. So it really came from when he was a very small child, but again, it fit his nature. And when he left office, he just picked right up and began doing what he had done before he was president, which was personally engaging in helping other people. I actually heard, Rena, that he and Mrs. Bush together were responsible for raising more than $1 billion in voluntary contributions over their lives for organizations. whether it was around cancer at MD Anderson or Points of Light or all kind, United Negro College Fund. So he will go down, I think, as the most exemplary national leader who became president around this idea of voluntary service.
So much we can learn from his life and his time both in office and out. Greg Petersmeyer, I want to thank you very much for your perspective on President George H.W. Bush.
Thank you.